everyone. I'm Linda Nickel, and welcome to this bonus session of the Happiness Hour. I'm calling it Shoot, Edit, Deliver, the Business Blueprint for Portrait Photographers. It's going to be a dynamic discussion with 4 working portrait photographers here to share their real life, behind the scenes journey of building and sustaining a photography business. From branding and booking to pricing, workflow, and everything in between. This conversation will explore the nuts and bolts of starting and growing a portrait photography business, whether you're just beginning or looking to refine your current practice. This panel will offer valuable insight into what it truly takes to succeed, not just creatively, but operationally. We'll explore key topics such as crafting a strong brand identity that attracts your ideal clients, finding your first clients and using marketing strategies that work, building smooth professional workflows and experiences, managing time, creativity, and long-term growth as a working photographer. These working professionals will share not just their wins, but their challenges, lessons learned, and the evolving mindset that has helped them stay in love with their craft while running a business. Brittney Ashton Paczkowski with Brittney Ashton Photo. She's based in Oklahoma and she's always ready to travel. Brittney is a seasoned photographer with over 15 years of experience capturing weddings, portraits, and wildlife across the country. Her adventurous spirit and dedication to her craft are matched only by her passion for creating timeless, emotive imagery. Danielle Walker with Danielle Walker Photography. She's got nearly 20 years behind the lens. Danielle is a self-taught photographer known for her heartfelt portraits, especially of high school seniors. Her work is deeply rooted in connection, and she considers it a true honor to document life's meaningful moments. Sally Lombard, a Minnesota native, began her photography journey capturing her son's sports games, later expanding into portraits, nature, and landscapes. Sally brings a thoughtful, seasonal sensitivity to her work and especially loves highlighting the personalities of seniors and young athletes. And lastly, Jama Pantel of Jama Pantel Photography. Jama is a luxury portrait photographer, author, educator, and a former influencer. With a thoughtful eye and creative approach, she specializes in capturing genuine moments that celebrate individuality and life's milestones. Jama is also the host of the podcast Brand Building, Living the Whole Picture, where she encourages women to become the face of their brand, offering tips on elevating their visibility and confidence. Welcome to the Happiness Hour, ladies. I'm going to do like a round robin. I think that's the right phrase. And I'm just going to throw out questions. And if you know an answer or want to contribute, I'm going to jump all over you to jump in and share what you know. And let me thank you in advance for doing this. Poor Jama has known me for a few years. And hey, Jama, do you want to do this? The answer is always yes, because she knows that saying no is probably not a good idea. Brittney is somebody I just met. Oh gosh, was that a year and a half ago almost? Brittney, based in Oklahoma, photographed my niece's wedding, and I met Brittney for the first time there. And Sally, I've never met Sally in person, but I've known her through a women's photography Facebook page, and I talked her into doing a happiness hour for me on sports photography. And I thought, okay, this would be a great person to have on this little panel idea of mine. And Danielle is a lady that I met just a couple of years ago, right, Danielle? It's
Since the pandemic, I feel like.
yeah, maybe so. We have a in common some gardening, and we both like butterflies, and she got sucked into this project too. So um let me start off with the most important thing in my mind. Let's just start with the boring stuff, the business stuff. And I'm going to aim this because I introduced Jama as a branding That's one of her specialties. So, Jama, how important in your mind is branding when starting a photography business?
Hindsight's always 2020. I didn't do it in the beginning and I regret it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you are the face of your brand. It's one of those things. I know I've been taking pictures for 35 years now. Got started in a dark room, all the things, had the camera where you put the thing over your head, all that fun stuff, developing film. And so I love photography. And I started my business and I didn't realize it was a business. I just loved photography. And it wasn't until I flipped my mindset that I'm running a business. Like this is a business. I am a brand. And that's when things started changing for me. So I think it's very important to go into business knowing that you are a business. You're not a photographer. You are a business. You are an entrepreneur. You are all those things. And putting that out there and being the face of that brand's huge. And what I've, from my experience, anyways.
hmm And I can say, I met you. I mean, you'd been doing this for a long, long time. I've known you for since the pandemic. That's 2020 is when um we hadn't even met online, I mean, other than online. And so I would say in the last 2 years, you've really upped your branding game. I mean, you've turned this into ebooks and podcasts. So this is your jam. So does anybody else here have you thought about branding? Do you do branding? A lot of people are asking for photos so that they can work on their own business projects. Brittney, I mean,
Yeah, I
you
do
know,
a lot of branding shoots. That's what you're asking, right?
mhm.
Yes, yep, I do. I've done for realtors. I do a lot of hair salons,
Okay.
for hairstylists.
Mhm.
I just did one a couple weeks ago. It was 25 girls, and she combines two of her salons together, but we did headshots, we did group shots. So it's really popular. I feel like it's really taking off lately, and being a thing that people want. They want to be able to showcase what they do, but then be very personable.
Mhm.
So people they're knowing who they're hiring.
Right. Do you find that people come into you with, I know exactly what I want, or are you actually having to kind of think it through for them and hold their hands and guide them into that? Just as, you were just hired as the photographer, but now they're reaching out to you like, I am specifically trying to brand my business.
More so, they come with their ideas.
Okay.
I've done a bunch of med spas as well, and they have, ideas that they want to do. And obviously, I don't know the med spa world, the different lasers and injections and all those things. I can help them, like, this shot would look good. But most of the time, they do come with me, or they do come to me with their own ideas. And then we brainstorm and like, okay, with this would look great, or let's not do that because that won't look too great. Um, but I have had like just a handful of clients say, I don't know what to do. Where should we do this? Can you help me with my wardrobe? All that good stuff. So more so they have their ideas and they, want me to help them put them in photos, and then just a few that are like, I have no idea. So help me.
Well, now I'm going to flip it on you guys as the photographer. What are you doing, Brittany, that helps set your brand? I mean, it's one thing to cater to clients and help them move their projects along, but how about you? Do you look at yourself, I'm a business and I need to make sure that people understand what I'm about as soon as they hit my website or as soon as they find me on Instagram? Are there things that you're doing that would help somebody starting out click off?
Yes. Yeah. I hired a business coach about 2 years ago, and branding was a big one. And we looked at what I thought I wanted it to look like. But when we wrote it down on paper, my logo and everything was completely different than the clientele that I wanted to attract, and how I, perceive myself as a business person. I'm a very outdoorsy person, slightly hippie, but then when it comes to the wedding world and branding and portraits, I'm I'm like complete opposite. Like I'll wear a suit jacket, very professional. So she helped me. I made my own logo, but it went from very, very outdoorsy to very, okay, this is it. This is what you needed. And it helped elevate me. So finding your brand, and sometimes you have to have someone help you, I think is very important when you're first starting out, because your brand is what's going to set you apart from everyone else.
Right. Sally, do you have any experience? You're actually, I mean, I think you've been photographing seniors and sports athletes and stuff for a while. And I think we talked maybe last year, and you were in the process of, all right, now I'm gonna take this really up a notch. What steps are you doing to get yourself set up to be that photographer that they think of when it's time to I've got an athlete, or very, I'm niching you in. I'm kind of niching you, and I don't mean to, but
No, it's okay because I am definitely in a niche. I definitely am. Um, for me, I spend a lot of time on fields. I'm always on a football field or a sports field. I kind of look at branding a little differently. Like my logo is a camera. I don't want, and I have like forayed into landscapes and, portraits and nature, and I did some wildlife too. So I couldn't, my logo is kind of pretty basic, I will say, but I didn't want to get locked into like an action logo or, so I spend a lot of time branding myself on the field. I feel like I have a little app on my phone that players will come up and say, I'd like you to take my picture, or other photographers, if I'm in a different state on a different field, they'll be like, hey, is that your picture? They just tap my phone, they have all my information, and I network a lot that way. I rely a lot on not only the team promoting me so much, but players. For me, it's a lot of word of mouth and getting the players. And I get a ton of players that will message me. And so I feel like I'm in a little bubble. Mine's so like
I think
encapsulated with what I'm doing that for the sports part anyway, I don't really wander too far out of my, comfort zone there.
yeah. Well, it's interesting because, like, Jama has her families, and they're going to tell their friends. Brittany's done one wedding, and all of a sudden, all the brides are looking for Brittany. Danielle has, I think her heart lies with those seniors, and it just takes one senior client just fallen in love with their photos, and they're plastering them everywhere. Well, who took that? And they're heading to Danielle. Danielle, what about you? I mean, how are you handling?
So I'm like probably the worst businesswoman out of all of y'all. This is not, I was nervous about this because I'm not good at the branding at all. For me, it is about relationships, like volunteering at my church. I do a lot of volunteer work. And that's how it all started back at my church, probably 25 years ago. I've always loved photography. I got my first camera when I was 13. For me, we've been in this area for 10 years. So like Sally, Cedar Park is my bubble. And it's just people getting to know you and your personality. And I have more people say, you just make my child feel comfortable, and it's for me, it's so much more about relationships and building those. And then it just kind of trickles out, but it takes time.
That is your brand, Danielle.
Yeah.
That is a brand. Whether you
I
know
guess
it or
I
not.
didn't, it wasn't intentional. I feel like in the last 6 months, all of a sudden I'm like, I'm really content with just where I am. And just I'm getting the people I'm supposed to get, and I'm not worrying about the people that I don't. And it's a great place to be. But I think volunteering is such a great place to start because you can practice. You're doing something that feels good because you're giving your time and your energy, but you're also building relationships through that. So that's been a huge thing for me.
All right. I don't, last but not least, so Jama, you're kind of my go-to on the branding. Just in my personal, like, a lot of conversations, it's like I get a lunch with Jama a lot. It's like, so what can I do better, Jama? And she can click off 1, 2, and 3. So let me ask you this, Jama. How can someone stand out in it's a crowded for you guys, it's a crowded photography market. There are a lot, I mean, I hate to say it, I can throw a dart and hit a portrait photographer. There's so many of you. How are you standing out? How can someone?
Danielle hit the nail on the head. Like, it's your personality. That is your brand. That is you out in the community. I'm don't live on social media. It is all the relationships I built offline, um, through volunteer work, through networking, through the day job, through all the other things that have brought all these people into my world. And again, like she said, people being comfortable with you, know, like, and trust,
Mhm.
all those things. And that's the biggest part of it. You have to be willing to put yourself out there in every aspect. And volunteering is huge. I mean, I've been blessed with a lot of opportunities through my volunteer work as well, that have come my way through that. And that's stuff you never really see anywhere. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah, it's really about people connection.
yeah.
All right, let's talk about clients and marketing. I'll start with you, Brittney. I guess my question was, you know, it's kind of, what are the best ways, for you to find that first client? I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. So can you reach back in your mind, and then what could you tell someone that is just starting out? How do they get into that portrait, family, wedding photography space? What's their first step?
Mine was with weddings is where it
Mm.
just started snowballing. I would say networking is number one. Going to all the local meetups, if you can get into the photography groups on Facebook, um, and even wedding shows. I feel like some of the wedding shows are kind of going away more so in the Oklahoma area, but maybe the other areas across the United States are a lot better. But that's where I met a lot of vendors. And so when I was meeting vendors, they were like, oh, I like this girl. Oh, her work is good. And then they would refer me. So I was also a part of a group that got started, man, it was 13 years ago. It's no longer a group anymore, but it was basically like a mini wedding show. You would walk in and these brides would come in and basically shop is what they would say. But I met so many vendors and then we all became friends and then just starts referring each other. And most of my business is referral based. So in the past, I did Google AdWords and stuff like that. But if someone asks me where do your referrals come from, it's been where do your inquiries come from? It comes from referrals from wedding vendors, and then also those wedding clients turn into the portrait clients, which then they start seeing family photos, and it just goes from there.
Yeah.
So networking is very important.
Okay. And Danielle, is there something that you can add to that?
I feel like I'm just kind of learning the networking thing. I had a friend the other day say, "You're doing that. You just don't know you're doing it." I think it's important going back a little bit as far as like getting the education you need. When I started out 20 plus years ago, I went to something called Florida School, which I think is called Texas School. And I did 3 years of that, like week-long training. So I knew, like, I wasn't just somebody with a nice camera. I'm still learning all the time, but I think it's important to get some education somehow, some way. Like you can have a nice camera and be learning, but I think that's important to learn your camera and do all of that. And networking again is just the relationships and being kind and not being, I've been to weddings where sometimes the wedding photographers or whatever are just like they're really full of themselves because they're so great, but then they're not personable. And I just have found that it's just about how making people see how beautiful they are and building those. I mean, I have so many friends that have just come along the way, and then they're the ones that are going to say, she's so great to work with.
Mhm.
So yeah, no great model. It's
Yeah.
just happened over the years and being patient with it.
Yeah. And I think you're a natural too. I think people are drawn to you. And, you know, starting conversations and being comfortable in a conversation translates to you trusting that person to take your photo. And that is something that you definitely bring to the table. Sally, how about you? Sally did a happiness hour specifically on sports photography. So I'm going to aim this and I'm going to use you for that niche. If somebody is interested in doing sports photography, and go watch the session on sports photography with Sally. But if there's one little thing that you could say, what would it be? Like, hey, I'm interested in I want to get on the field. Is there some tips for somebody to get that access and then to
Yeah.
get those photos in the hands of the right people?
That is probably the toughest part about sports photography is getting access to the field. Um, and that is where networking is so huge. You can't be shy and stand in the background. You have to insert yourself. You have to meet people. You have to, it doesn't matter if you start at the high school level or pee-wees or whatever. Take pictures that you can be presenting and showing on your, social media or a web page and then it's just to continue to make those relationships that get you in the right direction to get on the field. And then once you're on the field, making a relationship with who you need to deliver the photos and get assignments from them and specific, requirements. So it takes a lot of work. It took me, I don't even know how many years, but I followed my kids all the way through when they were just in flag football. And now I'm on the college field. And now I'm going to try and get into the professional field, the NFL. So, um, I think I have put myself out in more situations that are normally not comfortable for me, but I know that I have to make those relationships. And it doesn't have to be any big deal. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can just, walk up to another photographer on the field and say, "What are you shooting with today?"
Yeah.
Just get a conversation rolling and make a connection because you never know who that person knows and who that person knows. And
Yeah.
so it is totally about networking. Totally.
Okay. Jama, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I agree. It's about networking. I've come to the conclusion that people don't care how their pictures look as long as you make them feel good.
Right.
As a photographer, we care about how our work looks and all the things more so than the people. The people care about how you make them feel. And so the connections and the networking and being able to talk to the people has been huge for me.
Okay. I already know the answer to this question for Jama, so I'm going to leave her last. But I'm going to throw this out to you, Brittney. Can you suggest a way that you can use social media to promote yourself, to attract that ideal customer? Is there something that you're doing that's working?
Oh, social media. It's such a love. For me, it is a love-hate. I do reels, and I will say that me acting silly and I mean being myself gets more views or, shared across whatever than anything. And then lately, I've been doing some work. I did a workshop, again, networking, become friends with people on there. And some of my work in the past couple of years, I've kind of transitioned some things that I'm doing, and I'm probably rabbit trailing now. Have gotten like a lot of likes, and then my followers start going up. But again, the networking helps with the
Mm.
followers, and they're sharing. If I tag them, then they're sharing people or sharing my posts, and
Do you find that you're getting work out of social media? Like, are you getting paying clients because they
yeah,
you or someone sent you there? Okay, so
yes,
it's
yeah.
definitely worth it.
So lately, yes, Facebook and Instagram, probably more so in the last year. I've been seeing more inquiries come through on there, or when they go to my website and fill out the contact form, it says Facebook, Instagram. Sometimes it says online, and then I'll ask them like, "Oh, I saw so and so shared a post that you took some photos, and I loved them."
Okay. How about you, Sally?
Yeah, I would say a majority of my inquiries come from, I have a Facebook page for South Dakota sports, football. And you know how they have those automated questions? You can just click on it and send. I'm a new customer all the time. When then hey, I get this a lot of the time. I have family coming in for the game. Could we do? So this is what I'm doing before games. I'm taking family pictures like outside of the stadium or in the tailgate, and I do get a lot of inquiries on that Facebook page, and I started that page kind of as a
You
fluke because at the time I was trying to get on the field, and I would get my camera into the stadium and I'd be moving all over the stands trying to get a good angle. And I'm like, if I post these pictures, there's no way they're going to have to let me on the field, eventually. And I became that page just took off. And here's the funny thing. I'm there mostly for I try and capture images of everything throughout a game, but the minute I post any type of band photo, I will get thousands of views right away. I
That's
don't know.
amazing.
I know the
Go
players. I'm like,
band.
that's the one that everyone wants to see, are the players, but nope, put some band ones in there and it just goes woo. So
Band nerds unite.
yes.
Those
So
are just
like you never know. You never truly know what is going to resonate. And then I'm like, hmm. So I start adding a few band pictures in throughout, and then I get messages from band parents, so I can't tell you how vital that's been to me.
that's excellent. How about you, Danielle?
No, I'm with Brittany. It's kind of a love-hate. I totally have ADD. And so I have probably a dozen seniors I need to post about, and I get anxious about making sure everybody sounds as special as I think they are without it all sounding the same. And every year I end up not posting everybody, and then I do a reel with everybody in there, and every year I'm going to be different. Um, I think what it does for me, I encourage people. I used to say, you need to tag me, and I realize that sounds harsh. So I've said, whenever somebody's buying a digital file or their digital images, I say, I really love being tagged. And they're like, of course, we love your work. And I think it's the name recognition that over time has been good. I don't have one of those questionnaire things, so I'm not really sure how many times, but I can always find who, oh, how did you hear about me? And, oh, I look at your page and stuff like that. That's fun when I know they've gone and looked at my things, but I think it's the name recognition over the years that has helped. But it's a challenging thing. Yeah.
And I'm Jama.
It's a hate-hate relationship. I don't like it.
I know
I have
you don't
found and
like it.
determined to get off of social media.
I know you don't like it, but do you think there's a use for it?
Yeah. I mean, I got to be a run influencer for $1 billion brand and got to meet with $1 billion marketing team once a month for 2 years straight and learned a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got all kinds of free gear from my favorite running company for 2 years straight, races and everything else. So there is a use for it. But it also has all the negative, side effects with it and stuff like that. So for my business, I've never cared if people tag me or do whatever. I've never asked them to. If they post and I just like them, like that's fine. Doesn't bother me, doesn't hurt my feelings one bit. because I care more about what they say behind closed doors than what they say out in public. So I've every inquiry I've ever got on social media has been not a quality lead. So yeah. So I stopped posting work pretty much. Like I don't post it. I'll post behind the scenes and stuff like that, and that draws more of an audience and more engagement than any polished finished picture ever did for me.
Yeah. I mean, I come at it differently. You know, I don't photograph people, which is funny that I'm making you guys do this happiness hour with me. But I've always said, you know, have a presence, whether you take full advantage of the power of social media or not, but have a presence. So somebody can come out and look at your work, just kind of gloss over, even if it's just that little bitty Instagram gallery, which takes me to, can you suggest for the nice people, maybe how to create a portfolio? What's the best way for someone to see your work? Is it websites? Because some of you don't have websites. Is it, how do you get a block of your photos in front of somebody? You want to take this one, Danielle?
I think you're right. I think Instagram right now, you have the older people on Facebook, and then you have Instagram for the younger people. So like I also shoot sports. I've done that since I started. And so those kids go and look, and then they end up scrolling through because everybody loves to scroll, and they see the different things. What's interesting to me is I can post something that I think is beautiful of a senior, and it will get a few likes. I know lots of people are looking at it, and then I post a hummingbird that I'm making $0 on, and I get more likes. And it's just like, you can't, I've learned not to take it personally, that as long as people are seeing it. What was your question?
Well, I mean, is there a way that you would recommend somebody? How would you encourage somebody to create a portfolio? What ways would be best for them? Would you kind of say, hey, start with a website, which ideally everybody wants to have a website, but you know, when you're first starting out, it's expensive and you're dishing out money, you're not bringing in money. So for a beginner photographer and let's just say beginner our age, that's fine. But what about it's like somebody in high school or college that is like, I want to be a portrait photographer, but I really can't afford that quote unquote Squarespace annual fee. You know, what's a good way for them to get a batch of photos out economically, but professionally?
I think Instagram. I think there's so many, everybody's on Instagram right now. I mean, who knows how things are going to change, but that is free.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of high schoolers that I know that have decent cameras that have created their little Instagram things, and they're posting on there. And that's how my people are seeing things. And so I think that's the best way to start. And then you're sharing that information, and you're having, like, a lot of the high schoolers I know that are getting into photography are taking their friends out for free, creating their portfolios, and then those friends are definitely tagging them because that's what they talk about. And then, and then it either takes off or it doesn't, but that's how it starts. Yeah.
No, that's a great strategy. Sally, how about you?
Well, I would agree, Instagram, maybe Threads for, I don't think high schoolers are so into Threads, but I do think Threads is a good starting place. You can have a conversation a lot easier on Threads, I feel like. If somebody were to comment and that type of thing. For me, when I needed to present sports images, I'm trying to get in front of like an athletic director or someone like that. So it sounds really like, but I would just use a Google Drive until I could get my website and have a page dedicated to that. You just want to make sure that your images are presentable. They're how you want them to appear. Don't compress them, whatever, make it, but Google Drive, it might not sound very sexy, but it got me into a lot of places. So, and again, like I said, that Facebook page was such a fluke. Because I wasn't on the field yet, I was trying to figure out how I could deliver a lot of images to a lot of people. Instagram limits you, to 10, well, what is it, 20 now? Um, and that page is still incredibly strong for me. So I don't know that I would send a Facebook link to somebody that I wanted to send a portfolio to, but I think that's where I would start, Instagram or a Google Drive, something similar, something like that to just at least get you in the door.
I really like that idea, actually, Sally. It's, nothing beats a nice personal note. Okay, that's your introductory, some type of letter that says, this is what I do and this is the kind of work, and here's a sample, and here's just a Google link with, no more than 10 photos, right? Because you don't want to be bombarded by someone just threw up, 1,000 photos for me to go through. But it's it's a start, right? And I mean, I know what I pay for a website every year, and it's, if you're not making money, it's really hard to come up with that, to justify that. Brittney, do you want to chime in?
Facebook and Instagram, obviously it's free. So, that, and then you share to your page, and then your friends and your family see it, and then they can share it. So it's just,
Okay.
and then eventually they can do a website.
Okay.
I pay a monthly subscription for my website. It's pretty easy. I don't know about any of the coding and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it's kind of drag and drop.
Yeah.
Jama, do you have anything you want to contribute?
I mean, my answer is totally different. Instagram didn't exist. Facebook, I wasn't on. It was new, but I was not on it. It's back when only college kids were on it. I coded my own website on WordPress because WordPress is cheap, free.
Yeah.
And you just buy a domain. Domains are, $15 a year, whatever they are. Back then it was less. So taught myself to code, and just built my own portfolio that way. I don't send people to social media. I send them to my website. And I think recently I've removed most of my social media links. Social media is instant gratification. I like long tail content that can be found over and over again, which is your websites and your SEOs and your YouTubes and stuff like that. So I'm more inclined to send people to those places where there's evergreen content versus the clickbait, and you laugh for 5 seconds and then you scroll on to the next thing. So I send everybody to the website.
None of you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
Okay. None of you said, so I'm going to say it, LinkedIn. And you're going to think, what? But LinkedIn is a spot that I tell people, any photographer, use it. Just set up an account. And the reason I'm going to suggest it for portrait photography is, think of all the companies that are looking for headshots. Think of it's not photographers looking for photographers, it's businesses looking for photographers. From real estate agents to, the magazine editors, it's just a thought. I'm going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I'm on there and do that as well. And I batch all my content, and that's, although I haven't done it this month, but that's what I batch everything for LinkedIn as well at the beginning of every month and post there.
Good.
I have one, but I always forget about it. I forget to post, hey, you need some headshots, or post a couple of photos going, oh, this is what I've done lately. So it's definitely, that's a good idea. Definitely.
I think for you, Brittney, I would be linking up to all these wedding coordinators, cake bakers, florists. I mean, just to hit that whole pile of other, I think that would just be like I don't know, a treasure trove for you.
Yeah.
To be like, hey, I'm out here. Because some people in a pinch, they're, the people they're used to finding, they can't manage to get them on they can't schedule them. So yeah, maybe they come to you because you're a default person, but they came to you. And
Yeah.
then it's up to you to continue that relationship. Okay, so I'm curious. This is so boring. Business operations and software. What kind of business software should a photographer invest in? Let's start with you, Danielle.
My husband and I, we use QuickBooks. So he helps me quite a bit because he's a numbers guy. He's a financial guy. So I'm very fortunate to have that.
It's unfair to the rest of us, but okay.
I know. I have to buy him a nice gift like once a year at least. But let's see, QuickBooks, I use Zenfolio. There's probably other things out there for my website, but now I have, I don't know, 18 years worth of photos, and I don't delete the folders because those become like everybody can see the first picture of all those galleries. So I don't remove a lot of those. What other software would there be? I think
Photoshop, Lightroom.
that kind of, yeah. So for me, I'm a Canon girl. I've been a Canon girl since I was 13. I went from using Lightroom for like 15, 17 years to switching to Capture One, which supposedly is better for color calibration because I couldn't ever, if things were slightly green, I could never get skin color exactly like it would enter, it would look perfect, and then Lightroom did something funky with it. So that was also one of the things I did during the pandemic. I switched. There was a lot of bad words and tears switching because Lightroom was very comfortable to me. So I use Capture One, Photoshop, Portrait Pro for some things. It just sort of depends on what I'm doing. I have a sequence of ways that I do things, but I start in Capture One, bring it into Photoshop, do some things, and I may do a little skin softening. I really want people to look like themselves, just a little polished. You know, they're professional photos, so you want them to look polished, but not like somebody's just put a filter on, you know? So that's what I do.
How about you, Sally?
Yeah, I've got Quicken. And then for sports photography, there's a software, it's called Photo Mechanic. And if you have the roster, you can load the roster and then it sorts your pictures, which is a
A lifesaver.
savior. But yeah, Lightroom, Photoshop, occasionally Topaz. It just depends what I'm shooting. And I have a lot of phone apps, a lot of, well, I have Lightroom mobile on my phone, but then I have Snapseed and I can't remember the name of all of them. But when I'm on the field and I need a quick edit and send it, so I'm on my phone as well. For portraits, I'm not on my phone, but yeah, that's kind of, and my website is I used to have one. I shut it down at like when COVID hit. And so I just resurrected it. I'm still constantly tweaking it, but it's Pixie Set just because I've been out of the web page this game for so long. I picked something that was easy and relatively cheap, and I don't know that I'll stay with it, but for now, that's what I've got.
Okay. How about you, Brittney?
Lightroom, Photoshop, portraiture for skin smoothing. And then I also use Honeybook for big events and my weddings. And then I use Session for like seniors, family pictures, mini sessions. And then I also use PicTime, which is like Zenfolio. I used to use Zenfolio and then I I got mad at them. So I switched over.
Yeah.
I was like, stop archiving because I left everything up
Yes.
and then it archived and then it was just a whole thing. And then I really liked the layout of PicTime. It was more user friendly for my clients to download. So I do like it. And then I also use Aftershoot for culling. So with shooting weddings, that's a lot of pictures. So it culls for you. I pay a yearly subscription fee and you can kind of tweak it to how you like it. But it's helped me tons. And then also when it's, you know, fall and I'm doing family sessions, it helps cull those mini sessions pretty quickly. Picking the best ones out of a group and getting rid of duplicates and things like that. It has saved me hours of editing, which has been amazing.
And what's it called?
The editing one,
Mhm.
after shoot.
Okay. I'm thinking, I wonder if that would help me call all my bird photography.
So
I'm
I'll tell you this. It is, if you're looking for a specific shot, like it doesn't get rid of them. You can go click and look at everything. But the only thing I've kind of had to go back and redo is candids. Like it doesn't, obviously it's not picking up on people's emotions. So that's the only thing that I've had some issues with. Or I'm like, hey, I know I had this one specific shot, where the bride or the family member was like looking a certain way, and it may have not picked that one, it picked another one. So with your wildlife, I've done a couple of things when I shot a moose, and it did pretty good. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you have like the same shot, it would probably help you a little bit.
I was slightly kidding, but I'm like, y'all are worried about the people and the smiles and the hair. I'm like, bird, 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 I'm looking for
Yeah.
the perfect pose. How about you, Jama? Anything something different that no one's mentioned?
Yeah, I'm simple.
Simple. How about, is there anything you guys use to help you manage like your bookings or payments? How do you get money from them? Are you doing Venmos, or do you have I don't know, something on your website that collects payments? How are you doing that?
Mine,
Square.
Honeybook
Honey-
and the use session, and then Venmo or Cash App. But those two softwares have been really nice because they'll send out reminders. You don't have to send out the reminders.
Yeah.
And then they pay online if they want to, or if you have it set up differently, you send them your Venmo or whatever, then they can pay it that way.
Okay. Jamin, how about you?
Square.
Say
I
it
use Square. Square.
Square. Okay. I was like, I thought you were asking me where. I'm like, I don't know. I'm asking you. Square. Okay.
They can
Sally,
swipe a credit card if they're with me, or I can send them the invoice.
I have
you have a what, Sally?
Stripe on my website, but for a lot of players and families, it's Venmo when I'm, out on the field and
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, or I mean, PayPal, I've also done cash too, but I rarely do cash.
Okay. Danielle, anything different than what's already been mentioned?
I need to join this century or whatever decade. I still do checks for whoever still has checks. Like if I'm doing, because I do soccer and the dance team and all that. So if I'm doing all of their headshots, like their, you know, um, I still print out an order form because I want to edit. I want to edit what's ordered. I don't want to edit everything. And so I'm still very old school. And if somebody doesn't have a check, I'll take cash, Zelle or Venmo, but Venmo adds a fee because I got to follow the rules. So then I just tell them that's fine. You can do that. It just adds a little bit of a fee. Um, I probably just need to increase my prices a little bit and start doing credit cards and that kind of stuff. I'm always so sensitive about that, but
Yeah, when somebody tries charging me an extra fee to offset the cost, it's such a turnoff, and I don't work with them. So it's cost of doing business. If you have yeah, that's how I look at it, cost of doing business. And
yeah.
I'll take a check. I actually have a very loyal, good client who writes a check every year. Or I've worked with other women in business, and she's like, "Hey, I'm going to bring you a wad of cash." I'm like, "Okay, cool." But I still always implement it into my Square for my CPA. I have QuickBook, and it ties into that. And so my CPA insists on certain things because he likes things neat.
Okay. I'm jumping around a bit, but let's talk about how do you deliver your photo? What's your workflow? What's your photo delivery? What's the turnaround time? So I'm going to hold you, Brittany, because I think of weddings as being very difficult. Danielle, you're taking a picture of a senior. What's your process?
So I feel like I'm different than a lot of people, but I might not be. I try to stay really on top of things in the sense of not overbooking so I don't get so far behind. I don't really want people to wait a long time. I know when I did photography school, they're like, make them wait 3 weeks because the longer you wait, it makes it seem like it's I don't know. There's like a whole psychology. I just don't do that. I go home that night. I'm so excited to look at those photos. So I'll pour a glass of wine and I will get them, I'll go through and then I get them posted before I go to bed. And people are really excited. And so a lot of times they're staying up and they're waiting. And then if they have their favorites to me the next day, it may be 2 or 3 days. We went to Portugal, so I have one girl that's still waiting. It's been a couple of weeks, but I really, as soon as somebody's ready, I try to get them done within a few days. It's good for me to have it off of my list,
Sure.
and then I'm ready for the next thing. So that's sort of how I do. I don't know how you do weddings. That's the one thing that I'm like, um,
We're
but
holding Brittney to the end.
yeah,
I know this is complicated and crazy. Okay. Sally, are those athletes beating down your door?
So it depends on the kind of portrait I'm doing for an athlete. Game pictures are usually I turn around in the same night. So I leave the game, I'm at my computer, and
Yeah.
they're off to the 80. Um, Portraits, so when I know I have sessions coming up, I'm very intentional with my booking because I know especially if I'm traveling or whatever, I need to block out my time appropriately. I say 2 weeks and I stick to that. I give myself my deadline. I don't go a day later. I will oftentimes go earlier. Just same thing like Danielle. I want to get that off my plate. I want to get, through that session and on to my next. And so 2 weeks is kind of my own timeline I give myself, and I make sure that I schedule accordingly so I can keep that.
Okay. Jama, how about you?
So I show clients unedited pictures and let them pick their favorites from them. I don't want to waste my time editing every single image from a gallery. It serves nobody any purpose. Nobody needs every single picture. So they pick their favorites and so they can come just depending. Sometimes I've just showed them right then and there where I shoot plugged up to my computer and let them pick. And I do that a lot for the headshots and branding and stuff like that. I just plug up right there wherever I'm located and let them pick their favorite right then and there. And so headshots, I'll usually turn around in a day or two if I get home late or whatever. But they usually get all those pretty quickly. When it comes to like your senior girls who have way more outfits and stuff like that, it'll probably take me a day to call them because I don't want them seeing hideous pictures of themselves. We all take them. So I call them or whatever down and just schedule right away. I'm like, when do you want to get together to go over your images? We can do it as soon as tomorrow, whatever. So what's your schedule look like? And then edit the ones they pick. And obviously albums and wall art and stuff like that takes time for the companies to get that done. So I set those expectations for them. Like, my album vendor is in Houston, so they're not that far. They're in Texas or whatever. So I get that pretty quick versus my canvas galleries take longer in production and stuff like that. So I just set the expectations on, your art will be here within this time frame, but they get the matching digital files for the images for their gallery from their album or whatever, and I just send those over Dropbox as soon as they're ready.
Okay, Brittney.
It's not as bad as you think it is.
I think it's terrible.
It's really not. My editing turnaround time is about 6 to 8 weeks. So, because I guess I would kind of go back to the old school. I like to go back to a wedding with fresh eyes. I've been staring at these people all day and, all the things. So I give them a sneak peek within a week. So at least they want some pictures. They're excited. They just got married. They want to post them on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff, make their new profile photo. So they get a sneak peek, which is sometimes like 150 pictures, which is crazy, but I like the ones I take. So I just let them have a big sneak peek. And then depending on how many hours I'm there is how many photos they get. So I typically say about 50 pictures an hour. It really just depends on like the details, how many people are there, how big their bridal party is. If we're going to different locations. So, they could either get 400 pictures or maybe they might get 800 pictures. So that's what I do. 6 to 8 weeks is always, it's kind of a standard across the board. There are some people, and see, I don't only just do weddings, I do a lot of other things. So For the people that maybe they do 25 weddings a year or 30 weddings a year, and that's solely all they do, their turnaround times could be 2 weeks or a week or a month. So pretty much standard across the board in my wedding world is about 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I was gonna say, yeah, you I was thinking, God, this is a lot because I saw you work. I've seen you work 2 weddings, and I just, how is she gonna go through all these? Everybody's got how many poses of the family, and this, you move one person out, you take two, add two more. It's crazy. That
After shoot.
okay,
Because so with after shoot, it picks if eyes are closed. So
yeah.
that's the biggest thing for me is, if I take 5 photos of this same one and then I have one where I'm lucky and all their eyes are open, it picks it. I do have to head swap every now and then, but after shoot really helps.
No. Okay. All right. This is the one question that everybody wants to know, but it's such a hard thing to pin down. Pricing, and where do you start in your pricing? You're a brand new photographer. Any recommendations for a brand new person just starting, maybe has done one or two, little shoots, and now they want to, expand that and grow? Can you give them some advice of where to start? Okay,
Start
everybody's not.
high. Start high. Start where you want to be, not where you think you are. It's so much easier to give a discount than change your pricing and get the people to come back with you. So this is what my price, and running a business is expensive.
Yeah.
It you bring home roughly half of what you make. So most of my money's going to the government. If you are in Texas, the second you charge a penny, you're a business and you have to pay taxes on it. So I mean, obviously you can do it under the table and take cash only or whatever. But if you're actually starting a legitimate business, start where you want to be. Otherwise, volunteer to get your skill set up to where you're comfortable. But the second you go into business, start where you want to be 5 years down the road.
Okay. I can get behind that. Sally, do you have anything?
I agree, because if you start too low and then you make a price increase and you have repeat customers, they're just like, oh, well, last time we paid, have confidence in your ability and price yourself what you feel you're worth and what it does to do the cost of business. You can't run it on pennies. You got to, and not feel bad about charging for what you want to charge for photos. Your time and your effort and your equipment and everything is well worth what, you get paid.
Yeah. How about you, Danielle?
It's never been a strong suit for I would have needed one of you girls to kick me in the butt probably. So it's good. I think it's good to get your skill set to where you can charge, right? And then charge what you're worth. But I'm always told I don't charge enough. So I'm probably what not to do.
Well, maybe this will change. How about you, Brittney?
In the beginning, Danielle and I are a lot alike. And if I could go back to my, 15 years ago, starting out, hiring that business coach 2 years ago was the best thing I did, because I would suggest that anyone starting out that's going into this, find out how much it's going to cost you to run your business. And then you'll really start going, oh, wow, I can't charge $150 for a mini session because it cost me $125 to run my business. And that was me. And now I charge way more than that once you can figure out what you want to leave your house for and how many hours it takes. That's really important. I know sometimes it takes a while to get there. I was guilty of that, obviously. But if someone is like listening and they're like, this is what I want to do, figure out how much it's going to cost to run your business and then base your prices off that.
Yeah.
I will say, piggybacking on what Brittney said, I have gotten a lot better at like I used to be like, okay, if you're willing to give me money, okay, I'll do a mini session. But a
Yeah.
mini session, unless you're doing 10 of them, which I've never loved it, I've never done, because I want the time with a family and I want it to be unlimited for those 2 hours. I've gotten to the point where I just say I don't do it. Whereas before I'd be like, okay, let me figure out how I can adjust this for you. And I had a good friend of mine, and I just said, I don't do mini sessions. And so getting more confident in that, like I'd rather be home with my husband than making a third or a half of what I would normally make. And so just having the confidence of what you're willing to give up your time for. But I mean, those first 5 years, every penny that I made paid for my equipment and my website and my insurance and PPA membership and all of that. So knowing that ahead of time is important, like Jama said.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it is like, look at your expenses, the cost of a website, the cost of your software. We have a monthly fee for software, travel time, there's a lot. I mean, your time is valuable. And that's one of the things that women are bad at. We just think, oh, we're just being nice. Well, you can still be nice, but you also need to make a living and be okay with telling people I need to make a living. So good. This is great. Okay. Raw files. How do you handle those, Jama? Because you're going to have somebody that's going to say, I want the raws. What is your response?
You can have whatever you want. You pay me for it.
Okay.
I mean, I shot film for years. Like, what were you going to do with the negatives, right? So I don't think people understand what a raw file is. What they want is basic edits, and they don't realize that. So it's education. A lot of what we do is educate people. When they say they need headshots, when they actually need business branding images, you're constantly educating people, right? So if somebody asks me for a raw file, it's like, do you even have the software to open a raw file? Like, I ask questions. So everything's just a gathering of information.
Yeah.
Now, if they are a big business or, famous or whatever, they might actually want the raw files because they have somebody on hand. Okay, well, that's fine. It's going to cost more. I don't mind, signing an NDA and not, posting these people online or whatever. Again, I care what people say behind the scenes. I don't care what people say online. And so, yeah, I have no problem. Everybody's brand, everybody's look is different. So if you want to, I know photographers have the rights to the pictures, but I am giving you something for your business to use. If your business aesthetic is different than a nice, clean edit, they're yours.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll give them what they want.
I think people's just, someone has said to them, get the raw files, and they don't even know what the raw files are. So, Sally, how about you? Sally?
I generally, I used to get asked that a lot. Not many people ask me anymore. And so I mean, it's like Jama said, I would ask, do you have the capability to open a raw file? Like, I do all my portraits, of course, in RAW, but like all my action shots are JPEG anyway. So I don't even have any to offer for that. But yeah, I guess I kind of ask and see what they want, what they're thinking, and then kind of tell them, well, it is educating them. I won't offer them right off the bat. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Danielle, does this come up with seniors? Do they even know?
Yeah, but what's interesting is they're like, well, can you just give me the unedited ones and then that will save me money? And so they're saying that because they just want the unedited, and I don't. I'm like, no, because you're going to put them out there and I'm the photographer and it's going to misrepresent, you have a pimple or flyaway or whatever it is. I want my images to represent who I am and how I photograph. So I just tell them, no,
Okay.
I don't do that.
Nope.
So,
That's perfectly acceptable. Brittney?
They do not get raw files unless they want to pay for them. And again, just educating them. I did just shoot a wedding a couple months ago, and the bride wrote me back and she goes, Can we get the raw files too? And I said, well, why do you? I go, I kind of knew her. So I was like, okay, sure, but what are you going to do with them? And she goes, oh, nothing. My husband just he had dated this photographer and he likes to see how the whole process works or something like that. She goes, I'm just going to tell him no. And I said, well, I go, here's the problem. If you want the raws, you can go buy a hard drive and I can put them on them because it's gigabytes of information. So I tell him no, and I've never had any problems.
Okay. Let me ask you this. This is going to, when did you decide to make yourself a business? What made that click that I'm going to be able to make money now, and now I need to go hang my little shingle, and I got to run down to the Secretary of State and get my DBA. Did you do that right off the bat? Do you feel like that's necessary? Jama?
No, I was a photographer at heart, not a business owner at heart. So I cared about how my pictures looked, more than anything. So I did a lot of free work and volunteer work and stuff like that. And then when it became too overwhelming, and I was being asked too much, and I was fed up with men in the workforce that I wanted something of my own, that's when I decided it was time for me. So I could say F you to the man.
I'm waiting for that day, and it's coming closer and closer. I can feel it. How about you, Danielle?
When I just started spending a lot of money, my husband was like, we need a tax write-off. So it was both, we need to, and I was doing a lot of stuff for the church. I started doing stuff for their website. And then people, close friends of mine, just were like, you need to do this is your calling. This is what you need to do. So it was, but I was always super insecure. But it took kind of John being like, we need to, be covered financially, get the LLC and do all of that. It was probably a few years doing stuff for the church, and then it kind of evolved, kind of grassroots,
Okay. I think you're gonna need to buy him another gift.
I know.
He's kind of like your
Yes.
business brain talking, and
Yeah.
that's not for free. Don't take advantage of that.
Oh no.
How about you, Sally?
I did a lot of free and volunteer work for a long time, and kind of like what was already said on the panel, I didn't really think of myself as a business. I thought of myself as just, a photographer. Well, then, I remember I went on a workshop, and my intent was, I wanted to get pictures to sell, and I was dragging all this equipment everywhere, and our insurance guy is a good friend, and he's like, well, if you're using those for business purposes and something happens to your camera, it's not covered under that. And I was like, what? Because you're investing a lot of money in your gear, and that started my wheels turning. Like, I am starting to do more things that I could start making money, like money doing this. And then the sports came along, and I've almost been taken out twice on the football field. So it was like, I definitely need to get myself covered.
Yep.
And that's really what kind of spurred me on.
Yeah. And how about you, Brittney? I would guess with wedding photography, you feel a little bit more comfortable being insured, and you've got those things covered. When did you decide it is time for me to hang up a shingle that says, please hire me, and so that I can charge you and make some money out of this love
Sounds
affair?
like Gemma and I have very similar backgrounds. When I left my corporate job, I probably literally said F you. And here's a funny thing. I'm actually doing headshots for them now. So
I've done the same.
Yep, literally came full circle. I just was last week in this room because when I worked there, I would do photography. I did headshots for them, and I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, it was hilarious. And so like being back in that same room with my equipment and set up, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. So that was when I knew. Or that was when I left. Yeah.
Well, ladies, this I just find you guys a wealth of information, and I know this was kind of like what does she want me to do? It was kind of a crazy idea because I just really feel that women can support women and still um have the ability to make money. I mean, Jama's in this town, Danielle's in this town, and there's at least a half a dozen other portrait photographers in this town, and there's still enough business to go around. And I hope that that is something that you guys feel too. Because I remember telling someone, I can't do it all. I can't take all the pictures. There's room for everybody at the table. I'm going to ask each one of you to maybe give a closing um, words of advice for somebody starting out new. I mean, is there just one takeaway that you're like, oh, I really want to say this, and she hasn't asked me that question. So if there's anything that you want to chime in, I'm going to hit you up with, how about you, Sally? You want to close us off?
Well, the biggest thing for me, one thing that comes to mind out of many, but this is the one that really impacted me a lot was, you know, I want to be taking pictures and I want to put out a good product, and my editing skills were really lacking. And so if there's something that you need to work on, you need to work on it. Like take the class, read the book, follow someone online, do what it takes to get you to where you want to be. Don't sit back and wait and think it's going to eventually happen. I had some really blunt and honest critique about how my editing skills were. And I was like, okay, if I want to make it, that's what I need to focus on right now, like right now.
Yeah.
And so you got to take the criticism, the good and the bad, and do what it takes to get you to where you need to be.
Yeah, that's good advice. I remember your story about that when you did the session on sports photography, and I thought it was so smart. It was painful. It was painful to hear that,
Oh, it was painful.
there's pain. It's painful to hear someone say there's a lot of room for improvement here, but you did it, and I do hope that I'm crossing my fingers that I'll see you at the NFL sidelines. How about you, Danielle?
Yeah, same. I think that I think if we think that we know it all, that's where the danger comes in. Things are constantly changing. I used to only do natural light, maybe with a reflector, and now I bring a light to all my locations, all my on location photos. And it's so fun. It's so fun to learn new things. Sally, you made me think when I want to learn something, I just got scuba certified a couple years ago, and I have a whole casing for my really nice camera. I've made a friend in Australia, and we message back and forth, Brian, and he gives me advice. And so, looking for the people that you want to learn from, because there's always somebody that's going to do better and know more. And you find out who answers your questions. There are people, drawing a blank, but the owl guy and the guy that does the macro, his name.
Jose.
Yes.
Jose Madrigal.
They've been so kind and giving, because that's what I did during the pandemic. I learned macro, and it's just finding those people that are going to be kind and friendly, and then be those people. I want to be that to other people too. So just keep learning and growing and being willing to be, to not know everything, but just keep growing. So
Very eloquent. How about you, Brittney?
Education. Just keep, 15, well, I've been shooting longer than 15 years, but I still learn something new every day. For anyone that's wanting to get into wedding photography, go second shoot or just go shadow, because I think a lot of people get into weddings and they go, oh my gosh, this is a lot. And then, then they're doing someone's once in a lifetime moment and they mess it up, and then that's not fun. So I would say second shooting for wedding photographers that are wanting to get into it.
Perfect. Okay, Jama.
Yeah, same thing. I know so I took my first photography class 32 years ago, I think. I have a degree in photography. I'm still learning every single day. So I have been doing this a long time and I'm still learning. Um, what I didn't do as a, 20-year-old kid when I was taking my camera everywhere and seeing people do things I wanted to do, I was too scared to ask. I'm not one to talk to people, as Linda knows. I don't like talking to strangers. So I stay to myself and I Google everything and learn everything on my own. And that is not the way to do it. So I'm here to tell you, find a mentor, ask. 9 times out of 10, people are going to be generous. If any 20-year-old girl came up to me and asked me if she could shadow me, the answer is a hard yes every time. And I will share whatever knowledge I have. And if I don't know what you're asking, I will find somebody who can answer it for you. So again, network and ask questions and help other people. You go up a rung, bring up somebody behind you. Always bring up somebody behind you.
Sounds wonderful. Ladies, this has been so informative and so kind of you to share, the lessons that you've learned, maybe the hard way. You've all offered some tips and some insights, and I hope that when somebody watches this, they only need to take away one thing that one of you said, and this is a success. And that's all I can ask for. So with that, thank you so much. Jama Pantel, Brittney Paczkowski. Did I mispronounce that? So Brittney, I butchered her name. I told her I would. So Brittney Paczkowski out of Oklahoma, Sally Lombard out of Minnesota, Danielle Walker and Jama Pantel are some Austin buddies that I have run across first through social media and and now in real life. So and Sally, I'm aiming for you. You're the only one I haven't met.
We'll have to make it happen.
Make it happen.
Linda will travel. She will find you.
It's true. All right, let me turn off the speaker. Sally's a little nervous, like, really? Yes, Sally, I have done some crazy travel just to meet people. So, all right, let me turn this off and I'll meet you guys on the other side here.